Sanderson is one of the most popular fantasy authors of all time, and there are many reasons for that. Intricate worlds full of history and culture that feels real, deep and relatable characters with complex relationships, beautifully woven plots that always culminate in a fantastic avalanche, and magic systems so cool and useful you start planning how you'd use them as soon as you learn of them. But the reason I like Sanderson's books more than any other is because of the way meaning, theme, and philosophy are integrated into the stories. One of the main reasons stories are so universal and important to humans is because they teach us about life. They help us understand how relationships work, what to do in the face of success, hardship, or failure, and they help us decide what good and bad is and what we should want. Throughout the series, Mistborn teaches us many beautiful things, that even someone who is poor and small and raised by criminals can become powerful and competent, but that achieving your potential is much easier with good friends and mentors. It teaches us what a bad king looks like and how to be a good one, and that in the midst of darkness, making the right choice a single time can be enough to redeem you and save the world. But it also dives deeply into one of the most important philosophical frameworks of humanity, the philosophy of balance, of opposing dichotomies, of chaos and order. Though common in many cultures, it is most often associated with yin and yang, an idea and symbol important to Taoism, but which again is shared by many religions. Yin and yang are the two opposite but connected forces that all natural things are made from, which together form a balanced, harmonious whole. To understand yin and yang is to understand that the world is made of pairs of opposites, like shadow and light, or as continuums which end in extremes on both sides, and that the best path through life is found through balance, walking the line between the extremes. What is better, hot or cold? Neither. Warm is best. What is better, men or women? Neither. Both should work together. What is more important, taking care of yourself or taking care of others? Neither. Taking care of both is the best way to do good and live well. This idea is so powerful because not only does it fit perfectly onto so many parts of life, helping us simplify and understand them, it also gives us an answer about what the right choice in these circumstances might be. The most amazing and fascinating thing about yin and yang symbols is that as we have gained more understanding of science, instead of feeling frivolous and obsolete like many ancient myths and symbols, they have been vindicated, as it turns out that almost all brains of all creatures have a two-hemisphere structure, and it exists because at each moment there are always two possible versions of the world. Order, the world of safety and creation and saving for the future, where nests are built and resources are shared, and chaos, the world of danger and killing and merely surviving the next few seconds. Since all creatures must be able to navigate both of these worlds, but the actions and priorities are so fundamentally different in each, life in all its forms has evolved to have two separate brains for their distinct worlds, meaning dichotomy and opposites are baked into the deepest part of our experience. As a world containing and viewed through the eyes of humans, Scadrial obviously has the same dichotomies as we do, but it also has many more intentional ones woven through its world and story, the first being the magic. Each pair of metals has a set of opposite effects: push and pull, riot and soothe, enhance and cancel. They all have subtle differences in how they interact, which demonstrate different types of balance in the real world. Steel and iron will simply waste energy if used at the same time, but are incredibly useful if alternating between them. Soothing and rioting can accomplish most of the same goals, but with opposite methods, so having both simply makes their use easier. The effects of pewter and tin aren't even really opposites, but a user still needs to balance between the ideas of espionage and physical force to solve problems, and also must moderate, because while not using these metals could definitely get you killed, using them too much will also drag on your body. My favourite example of balancing the elementic powers is Vin's glorious return to Luthadel at the end of Book 2, where early on she would awkwardly push off a coin, then almost forget to pull herself on top of a building. She now gracefully and rhythmically pushes off horseshoes for thrust, while simultaneously pulling the previous one back to her and using yet another push to carefully place the next one. The technique requires total mastery of both metals and incredible balance, but it allows Vin to soar across the undeveloped countryside at an incredible pace. The creatures of Scadrial are also two halves of a whole, the Kolos and Kandra. Both are created with spikes, destroying a living human in the process, and then continue to consume humans after they are created. There the similarities end. Kolos are creatures of ruin. They are brutes who live for violence. They grow incredibly fast, but die even faster, and they destroy the bodies of Kolos and humans alike to create new Kolos in a constant cycle of death and rebirth. Their minds are weak, but they are hard to control, and you will always know where they've been and where they're going. Kandra are the opposites, creatures of preservation. They are subtle, They do not age or die, and refuse to kill unless absolutely necessary. When they consume a body, they do not destroy it, but instead preserve it for eternity in their memory. You will not see them coming, or even know they're standing right next to you, because they are incredibly cunning and wise, yet ironically can be controlled easily and exactly by any Mistborn. These two creatures represent the two ways of being in the world, one which thrives in chaos and one which thrives in order. But as the stories go on, the two species begin to yearn for balance. The Kandra yearn for more individuality and agency, and the Kolos yearn for peace and longer lives. This is one of the core ideas of many Eastern religions like Taoism. Happiness will not come from doing more of what you already do, be it working or relaxing or going on adventures. It will only be found through the natural, balanced path through life, where each part is in harmony with the others. Just as the themes of opposites and balance are woven into the world-building of Mistborn, it is also built deeply into the conflicts of the story. While economic differences are inevitable in any society, the rich in Scadrial have too much unearned wealth, and flaunt it with regular, extravagant parties, while the poor have far too much forced poverty and suffering, often becoming disposable playthings for the elites. This extreme imbalance is maintained through the force of the Lord Ruler, but as soon as the final empire falls, there are riots everywhere, and many nobles meet an early demise. The very core of the stories is also a tug-of-war between chaos and order on a civilizational scale. In the beginning, the world is far too deeply entrenched in order. The laws are many and harshly enforced. The poor are born poor, and the rich are born rich. Technology and culture never progress, and the leader is literally the same person for millennia. But behind these tragedies are hidden blessings. For when the Lord Ruler is killed, the pendulum of fate is released, and it swings hard to the chaos side. Riots break out, and food production plummets. There is no clear leader, and even when good ones are found, they are constantly challenged and undermined. Terrifying beasts begin to ravage the lands, and massive armies form to squabble over the cities, the final symbols of order. Even the histories and memories of the people begin shifting and warping, while the ash mounts pour out lava and ash to bury the remnants of hope and life. But throughout it all, the heroes strive for balance. When the world is stifled by order, they work hard to bring a breath of hope and freedom. But when their efforts prove too effective, they turn and work towards peace, order, and leadership. Unfortunately, while a gang of thieves are the perfect ones to break a tyranny, they are not the ideal people for mending society and the world, and Vin especially struggles with her new responsibility. This allows Ruin to whisper into her mind and tempt her. The best way to bring order and peace is of course by hunting and killing your enemies in brutal displays of terrifying power, and Vin is constantly making one step forward, but 2 steps back in their fight against the unleashed power of Ruin. The journeys of Vin and Elend are where these ideas are explored in their most useful form, as like many of us, the pair are often unsure which of the many difficult paths ahead they should take, but sooner or later they often find that what they should have been aiming for was balance. In the first book, Vin is thrust into 2 new but entirely opposite challenges, becoming a Mistborn and infiltrating high society. She is skeptical of the need for the second one, but goes along with it anyway, and balances her duties. However, they eventually accomplish their goal of defeating the Lord Ruler, and while her skills as a Mistborn were clearly pivotal to their success, Vin's attempts at socializing appear to have contributed nothing to this, and so, for the next book, she avoids these activities. By the end of the 3rd book, we see that her social skills, her understanding of politics, and of course her relationship with Elend become incredibly important for protecting humanity, and are in fact the ultimate key to saving the world. But she doesn't see this, and so for the 2nd book she eschews politics and socializing in favor of terrifying acts of pure allomantic power. She even neglects her relationship with Elend and her friends, and because of all this she slowly starts losing herself, becoming insecure and scared even as her physical power grows exponentially. Elend has the opposite problem, as for the first half of his reign he focuses on the politics and legalities of ruling, while procrastinating on developing his new allomantic powers, or building a reputation as a dangerous and capable Mistborn. Each of them focused on what they thought was more important at the time, but their lack of balance likely caused far more death and suffering than was necessary. If Vin put more time into her relationships, perhaps her friends would have noticed the lies Ruin was whispering to her, and if Elend had been a more threatening and capable person, perhaps the people of Luthadel and the invading armies would have been more willing to stand behind him. It is difficult to make claims like these when each event is supposedly part of the careful plan of omniscient beings, but I think the uncertainty in the Shard's predictions comes down to the choices of individuals, and those choices are what ultimately makes the difference. For it is Elend's skill and leadership that buys Vin and Sazed enough time in the end, and it is Vin's love for him and their people that gives her the strength to sacrifice herself and separate the remnants of Ati from the power of Ruin. Speaking of ruin, the shards are of course the most pure representation of opposite but inseparable forces, and it is from them that all the patterns of the book ripple and flow. In the beginning, the shards are in harmony. In balance, they use their powers to create a world, one full of life and beauty, and for a while afterwards they are both happy. But Ruin's nature calls to him, and he longs to destroy the world and start again, as is his right, as was their plan. Preservation does not like this, though. He wants his creation to last as long as possible, perhaps forever, and since he is not the Shard of Honor, he bends his oath and imprisons Ruin. As humans, it is tempting to think of order as the obvious good choice in life. Stability, safety, predictability, and survival are all things we value deeply. But this bias has been the reasoning and implement of many a tyrant. Giving up freedoms is worth it for safety. Laws should be strict and all-encompassing to prevent crime and depravity. I shouldn't rebel or even ask for better, or I will lose everything I value, even my life. This, metaphorically, is why preservation imprisoned Ruin, because it is what humans do. But what happens next is also what humans do. We get complacent, even bored, and the influence of Ruin sneaks into our hearts. This order is stifling you, it says. Break it and experience freedom. Make something better from the ashes. The leaders get weaker, the people more desperate, until one day Ruin escapes. The people riot, foreign nations attack, fires spread, and diseases sweep through the cities. In its weakened state, the forces of order can do little against these threats. And when they can, they often overreact, inviting more riots, wars, fire, and disease. And so in the books, as in reality, the world goes from bad to worse, until in the final moments, a person who is neither man or woman, neither wealthy or poor, strong or weak, who knows and loves all the people and all the religions of this land equally, takes up not just the power of preservation, but the power of ruin as well, realizing that they belong together, and that no lasting good can exist when they oppose each other. In doing so, he becomes harmony. Caesar's final action is the true culmination of the themes of the book, tied together in a powerful Sanderlanche as always. But even this is not the final piece of the story, or of the philosophy. The final lesson in balance is that between life and death, so perfectly embodied by Kelsier. For life to exist, it must avoid death, but, paradoxically, for life to live, it must also not avoid death. Humans could not exist if we did not make use of the death of plants and creatures for food and energy, but more deeply, we could also not exist if we lived in constant fear of death, always looking to extend our lives, never sacrificing for our descendants or for a chance of making things better. Kelsier knows his meager mortal strength cannot match that of the Lord Ruler and his servants, so he does the one thing the Lord Ruler would never do, intentionally embrace his own death, and in doing so becomes more powerful than the Lord Ruler could possibly imagine. The action makes Kelsier the perfect opposite of the Lord Ruler for a moment, and gives his followers a glimpse at the half of existence that was being kept from them. The part that includes death and terror and uncertainty, yes, but also the part that contains meaning, purpose, direction, movement. It is incredibly ironic, then, that the most meaningful and important death on their world is also the only one that fails to happen, as Kelsier cheats death in the Well of Ascension. It shows that despite appearances, Kelsier didn't really understand the power and beauty in his action. When Elend and Vin are offered the chance to be restored to their bodies in the final moments of Harmony's restoration of the world, they refuse, because they understand that death is a part of life that must be accepted and balanced just like everything else. Caesar understands this lesson too, as he knows that accepting not one but two shards will inevitably wear at his personality and eventually kill who he is. Kelsier accepts no such thing. Ruin and preservation are equally useful to Kelsier, ruin for his enemies, and preservation for himself and his allies. He is unwilling to allow either force to control him fully, let alone both of them. As each of his old crew pass from life, they speak to Kelsier, and though they are happy and grateful, they also seem a little disappointed that he isn't as wise and balanced as they thought he was, and is instead stubbornly refusing to accept his fate. Thank you for watching. Now, as a fan of Sanderson, I would like to recommend something to you. The game I made, inspired by the fantastic power of Windrunners, called Gravity Surge. It has a free demo on Steam right now, which contains a couple of hours worth of Portal-style puzzles that teach you how to change gravity like a Windrunner to move elegantly around different spaces. The full game will also include intense combat with Horizon Zero Dawn-style destructible robots. If you're interested, check out the link below, and if you like the demo or the idea, please wishlist it to let me know. Thank you for watching the video, and look out for more videos like this to come.